Well, for an in-depth look at the second quarter numbers on China's economy overall, we're joined now by Isaac Cohen. He is the president and CEO of the Inverway LLC, a Washington, D.C. based business development company. Welcome to the broadcast. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Monday, China posted second quarter GDP growth of 6.7% from a year ago. Isaac, slightly lower than the first quarter of 2018. Do you attribute this to exports and possibly consumer confidence in relation to the tariffs?
Well, not yet. I don't think the full effect of the tariffs are being felt yet. There is, of course, anxiety because that will probably hurt confidence on the part of investors. And that may be hurting already, but the full effect is not being felt. The slowdown, very slight slowdown in the Chinese economy for the first half of the year can be accounted for financial restrictions, domestic restrictions of credit on the one hand, and then this potential, I say potential because we haven't seen the effect yet of the tariffs is probably going to hurt in the future.
Do you expect a bumpy ride as we watch this tariff tit for tat unfold before our eyes?
Well, definitely it's one of the risks confronting the world economy. It's not only a Chinese or US problem. The United States is now setting tariffs or threatening to set tariffs against allies, against friends, against competitors, against everybody. So this is a risk. As the IMF said this morning on the World Economic Outlook, one of the main risks to the world economy today is the threat of protectionism.
And so how is that affecting other countries and other markets?
Well, it is affecting already in the sense that investors have become very skeptical about the future of the world economy. And the IMF this morning, talking about the World Economic Outlook, already said that this lack of confidence is already hurting.
I see. So, you know, China and the EU actually were meeting. They were talking about a trade deal. They were looking at the China relationship actually with the US and how that is playing into that. How do these two different ongoing disputes play into China's overall economy?
Well, I think this search for alternatives is what is going to happen as a result of the protectionism that is going to be imposed. Now, alternative sources of the products that are going to be submitted to tariffs have to be found. And let me give you an example. For instance, soybeans, which is one of the main imports from China gets from the United States. If there is a tariff against US imports, what China is going to do is to try to find the soybean somewhere else. And Argentina and Brazil are one of the main producers in the world. They are ready to supply the Chinese market.
So how's the country going to find the stability it needs moving forward? Because as this goes on, I imagine that it will continue to affect confidence.
Yes, well, the Chinese economy was already sliding slowly because of a change in orientation of the Chinese economy from the external market to the domestic market. And the IMF projects that next year the Chinese economy will grow a bit less. Precisely as a result of this reorientation of the economy towards the domestic market. Now, this will complicate much more any kind of policy.
So the yuan against the dollar, is this a headwind to the growth story, do you feel like?
Well, the dollar has appreciated in the first half of this year about 5%, and that's, of course, being felt by the rest of the world. Now, that will hurt US exports, by the way, because US exports are becoming more expensive. So there is a contradiction in a way in this fact that the United States would like to solve this issue of the trade deficit, and at the same time the dollar is strengthening, which is contradictory in a way.
How big of a factor are exports in the GDP?
In the United States, not that important. Let's say 15% of the economy would be exports. But they provide jobs for many people and high-paying jobs, and they serve to attract a lot of investment. So the consequences are pernicious to everybody, unfortunately. This kind of trade war hurts everybody.
Well, Isaac Cohen, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
My pleasure.